Right. Now we're going to crack on. Could you please tell me what is the problem?
A twofold illness.
Thank you. Tell me more about the twofold illness.
So I have an obsession of the mind, an allergy of the body.
Thank you very much. Tell me a bit more about the obsession of the mind. How does that occur?
We feel restless, irritable, discontent.
Okay, we're restless, irritable, and discontent. The hole in the soul.
So we want to change how we feel, and we use drink, drugs, shopping, sex, whatever.
Okay, so we want to solve how we feel. We don't necessarily want to use drugs, sex, sugar, and gambling and all of this. We just want to remove how we feel, that feeling that is so uncomfortable and sometimes physically painful. However, we don't know how. So we always go back to the old mechanism. We go back to the symptoms. Tell me, what is the solution to your problem?
We do the 12 steps and
Okay.
then we practice the design for the...
Okay, no. We do the steps. As a result of the steps, something happens.
We have a spiritual awakening or a psychic change or a personality change.
Thank you. What does that mean?
It means that we are recovered.
That means we are recovered. So when you think about the twofold illness, what does that mean to be recovered? What part has been relieved?
The obsession of the mind.
The obsession of the mind has been removed. It says on step 10, we have now our thinking back. We get our will back. The problem has been removed. The problem is the obsession of the mind. Remember, the physical allergy is never going to go anywhere because we don't have a cure. So the physical allergy will always be there. But if you don't start drinking or using or tapping on the symptoms, you're not going to create the physical allergy, the phenomenon of craving. So here we are sober, but being sober is not enough. I'm still an arsehole. I'm still act on my defect of character. I still act on some of the symptoms, maybe from the substance I've gone into behavior. What do I do to go from being sober and recovered to emotionally sober, emotionally recovered?
The design for living.
The design for living. Thank you. What is the design for living?
Carrying the message to another alcoholic, practicing principles, practicing assets.
That's right. Carry and practice. Very good. Okay.
Chapter 9, The Family Afterward. Our womenfolk have suggested certain attitudes a wife may take with the husband who is recovering.
Thank you. Can you underline recovering? And can you write 1? This is the first time they're using the word recovering. Throughout the book so far, the words that have been used are recovered.
Perhaps they created the impression that he is to be wrapped in cotton wool and placed on a pedestal. Successful readjustment means the opposite. All members of the family should meet upon the common ground of tolerance, understanding, and love. This involves a process of deflation. The alcoholic, his wife, his children, his in-laws, each one is likely to have fixed ideas about the family's attitude toward himself or herself. Each is interested in having his or her wishes respected. We find the more one member of the family demands that the others concede to him, the more resentful they become. This makes for discord and unhappiness. And why? It's because each wants to play the lead. Is each trying to arrange the family to show his liking? Is he not unconsciously trying to see what he can take from the family life rather than give? Cessation of drinking is but the first step away from a highly strained abnormal condition.
Very important. So cessation of drinking is but the first step away from highly strained abnormal condition. So highlight all of this. So it means that you do the steps, and the steps have one purpose. Only one purpose. You do the step in order to remove the obsession of the mind that removes basically alcohol out of your life. But this is just merely a beginning. So when people say, well, I completed the step and now I practice the steps, that's not accurate. How do you practice unmanageability? What it says is, having had a spiritual awakening as a result of these steps, we try to carry the message component 1. We try to practice the principle. So we practice the principle underneath the steps, the design for living.
A doctor said to us, years of living with an alcoholic is almost sure to make any wife or child neurotic.
That's right. Can you highlight? Years of living with an alcoholic is almost sure to make any wife or child neurotic.
The entire family is, to some extent, ill. Let families realize as they start their journey that all will not be fair weather. Each in his turn may be footsure and may straggle. There will be alluring shortcuts and bypaths down which they may wander and lose their way. Suppose we tell you some of the obstacles a family will meet. Suppose we suggest how they may be avoided, even converted to good use for others. The family of an alcoholic longs for the return of happiness and security. They remember when father was romantic, thoughtful, and successful. Today's life is measured against that of other years, and when it falls short, the family may be unhappy. Family confidence in dad is rising high. The good old days will soon be back, they think. Sometimes they demand that dad bring them back instantly. God, they believe, almost owes this recompense on a long overdue account. But the head of the house has spent years in pulling down the structures of business, romance, friendship, health. These things are now ruined or damaged. It will take time to clear away the wreck.
Can you highlight, please? It will take time to clear away the wreck. So remember, cessation of alcohol is merely just a beginning. It's going to take a long time to build it up.
Though old buildings will eventually be replaced by finer ones, the new structures will take years to complete. Father knows he is to blame. It may take him many sessions of hard work to be restored financially, but he shouldn't be reproached.
Can you highlight, please? Father knows he is to blame. It may take him many seasons of hard work to be restored financially, but he shouldn't be reproached.
Perhaps he will never have much money again, but the wise family will admire him for what he is trying to be, rather than for what he is trying to get. Now and then the family will be plagued by specters from the past, for the drinking career of almost every alcoholic has been marked by escapades, funny, humiliating, shameful, or tragic. The first impulse will be to bury these skeletons in a dark closet and padlock the door. The family may be possessed by the idea that future happiness can be based only upon forgetfulness of the past. We think that such a view is self-centered and in direct conflict with the new way of living.
That's right. So what it means there, can you highlight all of this? So the family may be possessed by the idea that future happiness can be based only on forgetfulness of the past. We think that such a view is self-centered and in direct conflict of a new way of living. Why do you think they're saying this? Well, they're saying this merely because we need to carry the message to other people. We need to tell them what happened to us. And trying to forget everything that has happened to us is not going to be helpful for the people. They're not going to be able to identify with us.
Henry Ford once made a wise remark to the effect that experience is the thing of supreme value in life. That is true only if one is willing to turn the past to good account. We grow by our willingness to face and rectify errors and convert them into assets. The alcoholic's past thus becomes the principal asset of the family, and frequently it is almost the only one.
Could you please highlight, we grow by our willingness to face and rectify errors and convert them into assets. The alcoholic's past thus becomes the principal asset of the family, and frequently it is almost the only one.
This painful past may be of infinite value to other families still struggling with their problem. We think each family which has been relieved owes something to those who have not, and when the occasion requires, each member of it should be only too willing to bring former mistakes, no matter how grievous, out of their hiding places. Showing others who suffer how we were given help is the very thing which makes life seem so worthwhile to us now.
Can you highlight, showing others who suffer how we how we were given help is the very thing which makes life seem so worthwhile to us now.
Cling to the thought that in God's hands, the dark past is the greatest possession you have, the key to life and happiness for others. With it, you can avert death and misery for them.
Can you highlight this whole para, please? Up to, with it, you can avert death and misery for them.
It is possible to dig up past misdeeds so they become a blight, a veritable plague. For example, we know of situations in which the alcoholic or his wife have had love affairs. In the first flush of spiritual experience, they forgave each other and drew closer together. The miracle of reconciliation was at hand. Then, under one provocation or another, the aggrieved one would unearth the old affair and angrily cast its ashes out. A few of us have had these growing pains, and they hurt a great deal. Husbands and wives have sometimes been obliged to separate for a time until new perspective, new victory over hurt pride could be re-won. In most cases, the alcoholic survived this ordeal without relapse, but not always. So we think that unless some good and useful purpose is to be served, past occurrences should not be discussed.
Can you please highlight? In most cases, the alcoholic survived this ordeal without relapse, but not always. So we think that unless some good or useful purpose is to be served, past occurrences should not be discussed. So here the person has recovered and they relapse. What do we need to do?
Double down spiritual effort.
That's right. They need to redouble their effort in spiritual effort. So what does that mean, the spiritual effort again? The design for living. We need to carry the message. We need to practice the principle and the asset. When you finish the program with somebody and they relapse, you need to ask them one simple question. Where were you dishonest? What have you not done that you should have been doing? And they will know in their heart of heart. If they're still struggling and they go back again and again to active addiction, something is probably missing in their step 4, I would argue. And maybe for them to review their step 3. You made a decision to live in a solution, not in a problem.
We families of Alcoholics Anonymous keep few skeletons in the closet. Everyone knows about the other's alcohol troubles. This is a condition which, in ordinary life, would produce untold grief. There might be scandalous gossip, laughter at the expense of other people, and a tendency to take advantage of intimate information. Among us, these are rare occurrences. We do not talk about each other a great deal, but we almost invariably temper such talk by a spirit of love and tolerance. Another principle we observe carefully is that we do not relate intimate experiences of another person unless we are sure he would approve.
Okay, can you highlight? And I think this is really, really important. Another principle we observe carefully is that we do not relate intimate experiences of another person unless we're sure he would approve. And you see what was written earlier about people's experiences, and in rooms we know each other, we understand each other, but we don't point the finger. Remember, when you point the finger at others, 3 fingers point right back at you. I am very lucky to be able to work with a lot of people. A lot of people have trusted me, not only with carrying the message to them, but also doing their step 5 with me. And the thing that I'm being trusted, that trust could be gone overnight if I was going to start talking about this very confidential information they had trusted me with. So always make sure you do not disclose anything to another person. Make sure on your gratitude list you don't put, something that might compromise that confidentiality.
We find it better, when possible, to stick to our own stories. A man may criticize or laugh at himself, and it will affect others favorably, but criticism or ridicule coming from another often produces the contrary effect. Members of a family should watch such matters carefully, for one careless, inconsiderate remark has been known to raise the very devil. We alcoholics are sensitive people. It takes some of us a long time to outgrow that serious
Can you
handicap.
highlight? We alcoholics are sensitive people. It takes some of us a long time to outgrow that serious handicap. I would actually argue that we alcoholics are hypersensitive people. Hypersensitive.
Many alcoholics are enthusiasts. They run to extremes. At the beginning of recovery, a man will take, as a rule, one of two directions. He may either plunge into a frantic attempt to get on his feet in business, or he may be so enthralled by his new life that he talks or thinks of little else. In either case, certain family problems will arise. Will these have With these, we have had experience galore. We think it dangerous if he rushes headlong at his economic problem. The family will be affected also, pleasantly at first, as they feel their money troubles are about to be solved, then not so pleasantly as they find themselves neglected. Dad may be tired at night and preoccupied by day. He may take small interest in the children and may show irritation when reproved for his delinquencies. If not irritable, he may seem dull and boring, not gay and affectionate as the family would like him to be. Mother may complain of inattention. They are all disappointed, and often let him feel it. Beginning with such complaints, a barrier arises. He is straining every nerve to make up for lost time. He is striving to recover fortune and reputation, and feels he is doing very well. Sometimes mother and children don't think so. Having been neglected and misused in the past, they think father owes them more than they are getting.
Can you highlight, please? Sometimes mother and children, don't think so. Having been neglected and misused in the past, they think father owes them more than they are getting.
They want him to make a fuss over them. They expect him to give them the nice times they used to have before. They expect him to give them nice times they used to have before he drank so much, and to show his contrition for what they suffered.
Okay, and the word contrition means remorseful.
But Dad doesn't give freely of himself. Resentment grows. He becomes still less communicative. Sometimes he explodes over a trifle. The family is mystified. They criticize, pointing out how he is falling down on his spiritual program.
That's right, can you highlight? Sometimes he explodes over a trifle. The family is mystified. They criticize, pointing out how he's falling down on his spiritual program. Remember, we're not perfect. We are going to fall. We are going to make mistakes. What is really important to me is to realize what we're doing and then being able to make it right. Make amends, acknowledge. It's part of who we are. Remember, those defects of character are entrenched inside of us, and all we can do is try to practice the principle and the asset. Just try.
This sort of thing can be avoided. Both father and the family are mistaken. Though each side may have some justification, it is of little use to argue and only makes the impasse worse. The family must realize that Dad, though marvelously improved, is still convalescing. They should be thankful he is sober and able to be of this world once more. Let him praise his progress. Let them praise his progress. Let them remember that his drinking wrought all kinds of damage that may take long to repair. If they sense these things, they will not take so seriously his periods of crankiness, depression, or apathy, which will disappear when there is tolerance, love, spiritual understanding. The head of the house ought to remember that he is mainly to blame for what befell his home. He can scarcely square the account in his lifetime, but he must see the danger of over-concentration on financial success. Although financial recovery is on the way for many of us, we found we could not place money first. For us, material well-being always followed spiritual progress. It never preceded.
Can you highlight, please? Although financial recovery is on the way for many of us, we found we could not place money first. For us, material well-being always follows spiritual progress. It never proceeded. So remember, your program of recovery comes first. No matter what, your recovery is first. Without recovery, you don't have a job. Without recovery, you don't have a family. You don't have anything.
Since the home has suffered more than anything else, it is well that a man exert himself there. He is not likely to get far in any direction if he fails to show unselfishness and love under his own roof. We know there are difficult wives and families, but the man who is getting over alcoholism must remember he did much to make them so. As each member of a resentful family begins to see his shortcomings and admits to them to the others, he lays a basis for helpful discussion. These family talks will be constructive if they can be carried on without heated argument, self-pity, self-justification, or resentful criticism. Little by little, mother and children will see they ask too much, and father will see he gives too little. Giving rather than getting will become the guiding principle.
That's right. So can you please highlight all of this? As each member of a resentful family begins to see his shortcomings and admits them to others, he lays a basis for helpful discussion. All the way to giving rather than getting will become the guiding principle. So as we discussed earlier, what we need to do is for the family to work together. Give them the sheets we've used for step 6 on the appendix of our book, We Are Recovered, and make them choose 10 of their defect of character and asset. Give them the principles of the program also. And if everybody starts to use the principle and their assets, things are going to be so much better at home.
Assume, on the other hand, that father has at the outset a stirring spiritual experience. Overnight, as it were, he is a different man. He becomes a religious enthusiast. He is unable to focus on anything else. As soon as his sobriety begins to be taken as a matter of course, the family may look at their strange new dad with apprehension, then with irritation. There's talk about spiritual matters morning, noon, and night. He may demand that the family find God in a hurry or exhibit amazing indifference to them and say he is above worldly considerations. He may tell mother, who has been religious all her life, that she doesn't know what it's all about, and that she had better get his brand of spirituality while there is yet time. When father takes this track, the family may react unfavorably. They may be jealous of a God who has stolen dad's affections. While grateful that he drinks no more, they may not like the idea that God has accomplished the miracle where they had failed. They often forget father was beyond human aid. They may not see why their love and devotion did not straighten him out. God is not so spiritual after all, they say. If he means to right his past wrongs, why all this concern for everyone in the world but his family? What about his talk that God will take care of them? They suspect father is a bit balmy. He is not so unbalanced as they might think. Many of us have experienced dad's elation. We have indulged in spiritual intoxication. Like a gaunt prospector, belt drawn in over the last ounce of food, our pick struck gold. Joy at our release from a lifetime of frustration knew no bounds. Father feels he has struck something better than gold. For a time, he may try to hug the new treasure to himself. He may not see at once that he has barely scratched a limitless load which will pay dividends only if he mines it for the rest of his life and insists on giving away the entire product. If the family cooperates, Dad will soon see that he is suffering from a distortion of values. He will perceive that his spiritual growth is lopsided, that for an average man like himself, a spiritual life which does not include his family obligations may not be so perfect after all.
Just quickly, lopsided means one-sided, just one way.
If the family will appreciate that Dad's current behavior is but a phase of his development, all will be well. In the midst of an understanding and sympathetic family, these vagaries of Dad's spiritual infancy will quickly disappear.
And again, vagaries means inexplicable changes.
The opposite may happen should the family condemn and criticize. Dad may feel that for years his drinking has placed him on the wrong side of every argument, but now that he has become a superior person with God on his side, if the family persists in criticism, this fallacy may take a still greater hold on Father. Instead of treating the family as he should, he may retreat further into himself and feel he has spiritual justification for doing so. Though the family does not fully agree with Dad's spiritual activities, they should let him have his head. Even if he displays a certain amount of neglect and irresponsibility towards the family, it is well to let him go as far as he likes in helping other alcoholics.
Can you highlight this? So even if he displays a certain amount of neglect and irresponsibility towards the family, it is well to let him go as far as he likes in helping other alcoholics.
During those first days of convalescence, this will do more to ensure his sobriety than anything else. Though some of his manifestations are alarming and disagreeable, we think that Dad will be on a firmer foundation than the man who is placing business or professional success ahead of spiritual development.
Can you highlight, please? Though some of his manifestations are alarming and disagreeable, we think Dad will be on a firmer foundation than the man who is placing business or professional success ahead of spiritual development.
He will be less likely to drink again, and anything is preferable to that. Those of us who have spent much time in the world of spiritual make-believe have eventually seen the childishness of it. This dream world has been replaced by a great sense of purpose, accompanied by a growing consciousness of the power of God in our lives. We have come to believe He would like us to keep our heads in the clouds with Him, but that our feet ought to be firmly planted on earth. That is where our fellow travelers are, and that is where our work must be done. These are the realities for us. We have found nothing incompatible between a powerful spiritual experience and a life of sane and happy usefulness.
Can you highlight, please? We found nothing incompatible between a powerful spiritual experience and a life of sane and happy usefulness.
One more suggestion. Whether the family has spiritual convictions or not, they may do well to examine the principles by which the alcoholic member is trying to live.
Can you highlight, please? One more suggestion. Whether the family has spiritual conviction or not, they may do well to examine the principle by which the alcoholic member is trying to live. So share with the family again.
They can hardly fail to approve these simple principles, though the head of the house still fails somewhat in practicing them. Nothing will help the man who is off on spiritual tangents so much as the wife who adopts a sane spiritual program, making a better practical use of it.
Can you highlight, please? Nothing will help the man who is off on a spiritual tangent so much as the wife who adopts a sane spiritual program, making a better practical use of it.
There will be other profound changes in the household. Liquor incapacitated Father for so many years that Mother became head of the house. She met these responsibilities gallantly. By force of circumstances, she was often obliged to treat Father as a sick or wayward child. Even when he wanted to assert himself, he could not, for his drinking placed him constantly in the wrong. Mother made all the plans and gave the directions. When sober, Father usually obeyed. Thus, Mother, though through no fault of her own, became accustomed to wearing the family trousers. Father, coming suddenly to life again, often begins to assert himself. This means trouble, unless the family watches for these tendencies in each other and comes to a friendly agreement about them. Drinking isolates most homes from the outside world. Father may have laid aside for years all normal activities, clubs, civic duties, sports. When he renews his interest in such things, a feeling of jealousy may arise. The family may feel they hold a mortgage on dad, so big that no equity should be left for outsiders. Instead of developing new channels of activity for themselves, mother and children demand that he stay home and make up for the deficiency.
Can you highlight please? So instead of developing new channels of activity for themselves, mother and children demand that he stay home and make up the deficiency.
At the beginning, the couple ought to frankly face the fact that each will have to yield here and there if the family is going to play an effective part in the new life. Father will necessarily spend much time with other alcoholics, but this activity should be balanced.
Can you highlight? So father will necessarily spend much time with other alcoholics, but this activity should be balanced.
New acquaintances who know nothing of alcoholism might be made and thoughtful consideration given their needs. The problems of the community might engage attention. Though the family has no religious connections, they may wish to make contact with or take membership in a religious body. Alcoholics who have derided religious people will be helped by such contacts. Being possessed of a spiritual experience, the alcoholic will find he has much in common with these people, though he may differ with them on many matters. If he does not argue about religion, he will make new friends and is sure to find new avenues of usefulness and pleasure. He and his family can be a bright spot in such congregations. He may bring new hope and new courage to many a priest, minister, or rabbi who gives his all to minister to our troubled world. We intend the foregoing as a helpful suggestion only. So far as we are concerned, there is nothing obligatory about it. As non-denominational people, we cannot make up others' minds for them. Each individual should consult his own conscience. We have been speaking to you of serious, sometimes tragic things. We have been dealing with alcohol in its worst aspect, but we aren't a glum lot. If newcomers could see no joy or fun in our existence, they wouldn't want it. We absolutely insist on enjoying life. We try not to indulge in cynicism over the state of the nations, nor do we carry the world's troubles on our shoulders.
Okay, can you highlight this part? I think this is very important. If newcomers could see no joy or fun in our existence, they wouldn't want it. We absolutely insist on enjoying life. We try not to indulge in cynicism over the state of the nations, nor do we carry the world's trouble on our shoulders. I always recommend people when they go to meeting to share a little bit about the problem, to share a little bit about the obsession of the mind and the physical allergy. Don't dwell on telling us your story of how much you drank, how much you used, or how much sex you had, because that's not important. You know, I have a PhD in a problem, so do you. But what we need the newcomers when they come and they are seeking a solution, when they are desperate. We want to show them that there is a solution. We want to give them hope. So if they come to meetings and all we do, we share basically what they know, they would not want to come back. And I guess a lot of people don't come back to the rooms because we're not offering a solution. Okay, so keep all the horror stories for yourselves. Share the identification, which is the physical allergy and the obsession of the mind, and tell them what you have done to recover. I think that's so much more useful.
When we see a man sinking into the mere that is alcoholism, we give him first aid and place what we have at his disposal. For his sake, we do not recount and almost relive the horrors of our past. But those of us who have tried to shoulder the entire burden and trouble of others find we are soon overcome by them. So we think cheerfulness and laughter make for usefulness. Outsiders are sometimes shocked when we burst into merriment over a seemingly tragic experience out of the past. But why shouldn't we laugh? We have recovered and have been given the power to help others.
Can you please highlight? But why shouldn't we laugh? We have recovered number 13, by the way, and I've been given the power to help others.
Everybody knows that everybody knows that those in bad health and those who seldomly play do not laugh much. So let each family play together or separately as much as their circumstances warrant. We are sure God wants us to be happy, joyous, and free. We cannot subscribe to the belief that this life is a vale of tears, though it was once just that for many of us.
Can you highlight, please? We are sure that the solutions wants us to be happy, joyous, and free. We cannot subscribe to the belief that this life is a vale of tears, though it once was just that way for many of us.
But it is clear that we made our own misery. God didn't do it.
Can you highlight? But it is clear that we've made our own misery. My life is unmanageable by me. Each action had a consequence.
Avoid then the deliberate manufacture of misery, but if trouble comes, cheerfully capitalize it as an opportunity to demonstrate his omnipotence.
Can you highlight this? Avoid then the deliberate manufacture of misery. Poor me, people pleasing, self-seeking. Try to avoid. I know they are very strong, can be very strong defect of character and can be entrenched. But the more you're going to practice the opposite, the better you're going to get at it.
Now about health. A body badly burned by alcohol does not often recover overnight, nor do twisted thinking and depression vanish in a twinkling. We are convinced that a spiritual mode of living is a most powerful health restorative.
Okay, can you highlight? This part now we're going to be reading is very important. So now about health. A body badly burned by alcohol does not often recover overnight, nor do twisted thinking and depression vanish in a twinkling. We are convinced that a spiritual mode of living is the most powerful health restorative. And what is important to bear in mind here, I have been to so many meetings in the time that I've been in recovery, and I have heard, unfortunately, often people make comments about health, about medication, about a lot of things, and it struck me to some extent that people who've been in recovery for a few months become doctors all of a sudden. They all play God. And I will suggest when people come into recovery and they're being prescribed medication by their own doctors, you don't make judgment and you don't look at it, because that is none of your business. Your business is you carry the message to another person who suffers. I even work with doctors, and I always say to them, what you do when you carry the message as an alcoholic or as an addict to another person. You remove your professional hat because it doesn't belong when you carry the message.
We who have recovered from serious drinking are miracles of mental health, but we have seen remarkable transformations in our bodies. Hardly one of our crowd now shows any mark of dissipation.
It means evaporates. So can you highlight all of this? We who have recovered number 14 from serious drinking are miracles of mental health. But we have seen remarkable transformation in our bodies. Hardly one of our crowd now showed any mark of dissipation. When I came into recovery, I thought I was born depressed. I came in with really, really massive mental health difficulties. I was suffering from very deep depression and my body was battered. It didn't take very long from the depression to lift a little bit. I was feeling way better and my body was way better because I was not drinking anymore, so the body was getting better.
But this does not mean that we disregard human health measures. God has abundantly supplied this world with fine doctors, psychologists, and practitioners of various kinds. Do not hesitate to take your health problems to such persons.
That's right. So God has abundantly supplied this world with fine doctors, psychologists, and practitioners of every kind, of various kinds. Do not hesitate to take your health problem to such a person. Do not take your health problem to your guide who's going to be carrying the message to you. Go to the professional, the people who know what they're talking about.
Most of them give freely of themselves, and that their fellows may enjoy sound minds and bodies. Try to remember that though God has wrought miracles among us, we should never belittle a good doctor or psychiatrist. Their services are often indispensable in treating a newcomer and in following his case afterward.
Bingo, can you highlight? Their service, so we're talking about the doctors, the psychologists, and the practitioners of every kind, are often indispensable in treating a newcomer and in following his case afterwards. So the people who talk about, well, if you use antidepressant, I won't work with you because you're not feeling your feelings, or if you use Subutex, if you're a heroin addict, or some other kind of medication, I can't work with you, that's complete nonsense. People, as long as they can understand and as long as they can follow the program of recovery, we should help them.
One of the many doctors who had the opportunity of reading this book in manuscript form told us that the use of sweets was often helpful, of course, depending upon a doctor's advice.
Okay, just that we be very clear here. A lot of us got into using a little bit of sweet to a lot of sweet, and I became, after my recovering and being recovered from the substance addiction, the drugs and the alcohol, I became a sugar addict. So just be very careful, because I was eating on my feelings. I was eating to soothe the hole in the soul. So always be mindful if you start doing this.
He thought all alcoholics should constantly have chocolate available for its quick energy value at times of fatigue. He added that occasionally in the night a vague craving arose which could be satisfied by candy. Many of us have noticed a tendency to eat sweets and have found this practice beneficial.
And that's right. I think the sweets here, again, it's because there's so much sugar in alcohol. Then we try to compensate, but we need to be mindful that we can move from the substance addiction to the behavioral, and food can become problematic. How many people have you seen coming to the room and 6 months or 12 months later, they ballooned, absolutely ballooned, and it becomes out of control.
Also, bear in mind that this is written way before we had like supermarkets filled with sweets.
Absolutely, and processed food and all
it
of
wasn't
this.
the same back then.
Yeah, so just be mindful. Again, it's not a big deal. Have a sweet or two, but be mindful of it.
A word about sex relations. Alcohol is so sexually stimulating to some men that they have overindulged. Couples are occasionally dismayed to find that when drinking is stopped, the man tends to be impotent.
Can you highlight, please? A word about sex relation. Alcohol is so sexually stimulating to some men that they have overindulged. Couples are occasionally dismayed to find that when drinking is stopped, the man tends to be impotent.
Unless the reason is understood, there may be an emotional upset. Some of us have had this experience only to enjoy in a few months a finer intimacy than ever. There should be no hesitancy in consulting a doctor or psychologist if the condition persists. We do not know of many cases where this difficulty lasted long. The alcoholic may find it hard to reestablish friendly relations with his children. Their young minds were impressionable while he was drinking. Without saying so, they may cordially hate him for what he has done to them and to their mother. The children are sometimes dominated by a pathetic hardness and cynicism. They cannot seem to forgive and forget. This may hang on for months, long after their mother has accepted dad's new way of living and thinking.
Okay, can you highlight all of this? The alcoholic may find it hard to reestablish friendly relation with his children all the way to. This may hang on for months, long after their mother has accepted dad's new way of living and thinking. So remember again, when there are children involved, if you're lucky enough to have Latin meetings, it would be great for them to be directed towards this meeting, because they will be explained the nature of alcoholism and the truthfulness.
In time, they will see that he is a new man, and in their own way, they will let him know it. When this happens, they can be invited to join in the morning meditation, and they can take part in the daily discussion without rancor or bias. From that point on, progress will be rapid. Marvelous results often follow such a reunion. Whether the family goes on a spiritual basis or not, the alcoholic member has to if he would recover. The others might be convinced of his new status beyond the shadow of a doubt. Seeing is believing to most families who have lived with a drinker. Here's a case in point. One of our friends is a heavy smoker and coffee drinker. There was no doubt he overindulged. Seeing this and meaning to be helpful, his wife commenced to admonish him about it. He admitted that he was overdoing these things, but frankly said that he was not ready to stop. His wife is one of those persons who really feels there is something rather sinful about those commodities, so she nagged, and her intolerance finally threw him into a fit of anger. He got drunk. Of course, our friend was wrong, dead wrong. He had to painfully admit that and mend his spiritual fences. Though he is now a most effective member of Alcoholics Anonymous, he still smokes and drinks coffee. But neither his wife nor anyone else stands in judgment.
Okay, can you highlight? This is very important. Though he is now a most effective member of Alcoholics Anonymous, we're not saying he had to start the program all over again. Do you remember what it says on page 120 about relapse? What do you need to do if you have a relapse?
Carry on.
You basically redouble your effort to work with others. Work with others, that's it. And if you really mean business, you're going to be okay. And he meant business, and he's now one of the most effective members of Alcoholics Anonymous. He didn't have to start everything again.
She sees she was wrong to make a burning issue out of such a matter when his more serious ailments were being rapidly cured.
Can you highlight, please? She sees she was wrong to make a burning issue of such a matter when his most serious ailments were being rapidly cured.
We have 3 little mottos which are apropos. Here they are. First things first, live and let live. Easy does it.
Can you highlight, please? We have 3 little mottos which are apropos. Here they are. First thing first, live and let live, and easy does it. And these are the little thingy we have in meetings. This is where they come from.